Are you looking for a jig to help you cut circles on your bandsaw that's quick, easy, and more importantly, repeatable time and time again? The Carter AccuRight Circle Cutting Jig is just the jig that you want. From diameters as small as just a few inches all the way up to something as big as 48, the Carter AccuRight Circle Cutting Jig will take care of your needs. So let's come back in. I'll show you how we set it up here on the bandsaw, and then we'll make a couple of cuts. So the first place we start is by installing this clamp bracket. This is made from an extruded aluminum with an anodized finish, and so are several of the other parts, and it fits onto the tabletop very easily by just simply clamping it in position with these brackets down here. Now there's a couple of things we can do to bring in the clamp brackets before we install it, which makes it even easier because then it's customized to the size of your tabletop. The instructions are very clear on how to do this, but it goes on really easy. Once we have the clamps in position, then we want to go ahead and set up the tape measure here. So it's just a matter of taking a pair of pliers and ever so carefully pulling it to the side until the zero pretty much lines up right here with the back of the blade. Now the next piece we want to bring in is this crossbar, and we're just going to slide it on the T-track from the bracket. We'll get it right up close to the blade itself, and then we'll just slightly tighten it so that it's not going anywhere. Now what we want to do is we have a pivot point here, and we want it to be right at the very front of the blade. So obviously you'll have to make some adjustments depending on the size of your blade. And in order to do that, if necessary, we'll loosen the clamps down here, make that slight adjustment. Once we get it in position, we'll just make sure that these are locked. We'll loosen the T-slot here, and we'll move this out of the way. And now we're going to come back in, and we want to make sure that the bracket is perpendicular to the miter slots. Now that we have the crossbar and the bracket all adjusted, let's go ahead and add some material support. So we've got these great little support pieces here, and they fit right into the T-tracks, and it's just a matter of just kind of pinching them, putting them in position, and this will help to make sure that as we're making our cuts, the material is being supported up off of the table at about the same plane as this. And there's also a material support piece that will help you as you're making your initial cut. And again, that just fits right into the T-slot, and then you can lock it down. We're about ready to make our first cut. But I want to talk about a couple of things real quick. Number one, depending on how small of a diameter of cut you're going to make, you may need to go with a much smaller blade. I'm planning on cutting one that's approximately 16 inches in diameter, so this 3/8 inch blade that I have on here is going to work perfectly fine. But smaller diameter ones, you're going to definitely want to go down to a narrower blade. Another thing is you're not limited with this jig, with the AccuRight Circle Cutting Jig, on the depth of material that you can use. You could take a bowl blank and cut it out on this. The only limitation you have is on the size of the bandsaw. So it would be the distance between the surface here and the bottom of your bandsaw. So that's really nice. Unfortunately, I don't have any logs at the moment to do a bowl, but you can kind of get an idea from, you can see some great videos about this. So anyways, though, we have this all set up now that we understand those limitations. What I want to do is, like I mentioned, we're going to make a cut at about 16 inches in diameter. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to take this crossbar out, and we're going to use the gauge here. And it's really nice because there's a nice window here that really shows you the number in there. You can get an accurate look at it. I have it out about 8 inches because a 16-inch diameter circle has a 8-inch radius. So I have this out at 8 inches, locking it in position. What we need to do now is we have the great pivot here. This is nice and sharp. It's really going to hold things in position. And there's two ways that we can get our material ready. We can easily just drop the material on here and kind of feel for it and say, all right, that feels about right. Or we can kind of come in, and this is what I prefer to do, is mark the location. I get a nice center point, and then I'm going to take, in this situation, my punch awl, and I'm going to drop that in and make a mark. You could easily use something like a nail punch, and that gives me this mark right there, and we're going to be all set to use this. Now I'm just using some thin 1/4 inch material to play with this to show you how it works, but again, you can use much thicker material if you want to. So what we'll do is drop that hole right onto the pivot point, and we'll start actually back here. Now again, this slides really nicely on that anodized extruded aluminum surface, and there's a magnet. I don't know if you can hear that. There's a magnet right there, and what that's going to do is as you start going forward, it catches, it locks itself in place, and you just start making the cut. So let's go ahead, stop talking about it, and actually make a cut. So we have our mark. We're going to put it right on the pivot. So we'll just kind of drop down here, line it up. There it is. Let's start up our bandsaw. To start the cut, we just simply slide the material forward into the blade until the pivot point connects with that magnetic stop. Once it's in position, we start rotating the material in a clockwise manner, being sure to put pressure in the very center there where the pivot point is, and carefully rotating it. As we complete the cut, we turn off the bandsaw, wait for it to come to a stop, and there's our circle. The Carter AccuRight Circle Cutting Jig, a fantastic jig to help turn your bandsaw into a circle cutting machine from small diameter to large diameter. It makes them quick, easy, and repeatable time and time again.